Hi, my name is Nicole. I'm a sugar addict bulimic and a grateful member of Overeaters Anonymous. OA was not my first program. ACA was my first program, and I recently celebrated 31 years. OA was, like my fourth or fifth program, and I'll kind of get to that. First of all, I just want to, welcome everyone. And if I say something that's useful, beautiful. And if I say something that's not, it's okay. There are plenty of speakers. I do not represent any meeting, any program as a whole. I'm just sharing my experience coming into 12-step and working the program. Well, in this meeting, I'm focusing on my food addiction. So I want to start by kind of I do have to start with ACA because that's kind of where my journey started. And that was like, for me, at 23 years old, I grew up with two alcoholic parents in a middle-class environment. And so, alcoholism doesn't exist in the middle class. I mean, you're a foodie and you like expensive beer and wine, but you're not an alcoholic. So getting into ACA was a profound experience for me because I knew things were crazy. But somehow money can create a veneer that means that it's not. So, and the other reason why I want to start an ACA is because one of the things, if you read ACA, it'll say, like, many of us grew up in alcoholic or slash dysfunctional. I have friends who can't point to any alcoholism in their parents, but they relate so much to the dysfunctional family system. And then lo and behold, their grandfather was an alcoholic or something like that. Also, I have a friend who her mother is schizophrenic, bipolar, and she relates to, the ACA family dynamics. But anyway, in ACA, they talk about, like, oftentimes the children of alcoholics, addicts will become alcoholic addicts. And then there's a part in the big red book where it talks about, or there are those of us in ACA who can switch up addictions going from one to the other so that it never looks like we're addicted to one particular thing. And that was definitely more my story. So I was that person. I was always the designated driver. And what I mean by that is like, I was the one who oftentimes was literally the designated driver, but then also growing up with two alcoholic parents, and then my brother, who's 12 years younger than me, also became an alcoholic. So in the family, I was the designated driver. Someone had to be. And then with my friends, that became true as well. So ACA was the first program, and in doing a sort of inventory, I could see, like, well, yeah, there was a period where I drank a lot, but I stopped. There was a period where I smoked a lot of pot, but I stopped. There was a period where I worked 80 hours a week, but I stopped. So it was always this ability to tell people, yeah, but I stopped. So I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not a pothead. I'm not whatever. So I'm going through. So I was like 23. And like I say, I came in at 28. And that's because actually I got 12-step. I was having problems with money because my dad made a lot of money, but he also spent a lot of money. So I didn't have any sense of, like, fiscal responsibility. And I was doing a pressure relief group in DA, which is Debtors Anonymous, which is where they teach you how to, be sober with money. And a friend of mine who 12-stepped me into the DA and said, hey, this will probably help. You know, we were doing a pressure relief group, and she's like, where do you spend money on clothes? And I said, I don't buy clothes, you know. And that conversation, she kept asking because she recognized immediately. And that's how I got 12-stepped into OA. So I do want to backtrack just a little bit. And that is that I was a normal sized kid, and then puberty hit. And there was a lot of crazy going on in my house, and I was a tomboy, and I was not, when puberty hit and my family life was getting worse, I just was not ready for puberty. The game changed from we're all kids playing to boy, girl, who has a crush on what, and I just wasn't prepared for that. And as a way to stop that from happening, I started eating, and I gained 60 pounds in one semester. And this is the beginning of my food addiction, my disordered eating, and what is at the root of my disordered eating. I'm not going to speak for others. I'm just going to say is that what I'm actually addicted to is control. That somehow I can do some sort of behavior, in mine it was particular, that can control what is happening. And like a lot of dysfunctional behaviors, it actually was effective. By gaining all this weight, I desexualized my body. I just took myself out, you know, but of course I'm a young person and I want to be liked and whatever. So that creates a lot of tension and a lot of conflicting feelings internally. Also, eventually, you know, by the time I got to high school, I was like, well, you know, I kind of like boys and girls. Like, and actually, I'm having a hard time trusting anything in a male body. So I'm just going to really focus on girls. So that made it even more confusing. So when I was like 12, I gained. So now I'm one of the fat girls. I'm tall and I wear it well. So I was, you know, I was definitely like 60 pounds overweight, and I was definitely one of the fat girls. Um, and I just happened to have a body that, you know, it all kind of evenly spaced out. So I didn't have problems like sitting in chairs or anything like that that I've learned can be really painful experience to go through. I had plenty of that myself. The other reason why I gained 60 pounds is because um, my dad's side of the family is very patriarchal. My dad was a son of a colonel, and if you don't understand what that means, I basically just told you that my dad was the son of a duke. Like in that world, like that he was the son of, that his dad was a colonel in that military world. My dad was like I said, he was like Prince Harry. I mean, it was a big deal. So arrogance and violence and power over was a big, huge thing. And so one time my dad got mad at me, and he, when I was 12, and he postured towards me as if to say, like, I will hurt you. And now, as an adult, I know that my dad probably wouldn't have done that, but as a child, I don't know that he wouldn't have done that. So my dad weighed 180, and so, or 185, all muscle, and so I weighed 180, 185. But again, this is just something that came out over time. So it's like puberty hits, I'm not ready, I'm going to desexualize my body. And also my dad, who I love and adore, who is my big hero, just has this violence presence around him, and I need to be prepared for that. I used to joke that it's like, you know how when you're a little kid and you say, my dad will beat up your dad. I'm like, my dad actually will beat up your dad. So on the one hand, I felt incredibly safe from the outside world. Like my dad boxed, you know what I mean? Like he went to the gym, he boxed, he, you know, he's not afraid to throw a punch. He came from that kind of environment, even though he also had this incredibly sensitive side. So it was like, no, my dad will fuck your shit up. Unfortunately, like, but there's no one who will protect me from my dad. So I felt very protected from outside people, but not protected inside the home. So when I'm fast forwarding, so that's the childhood stuff. And then comes the moment of Gina asking me like why I don't like to shop. And basically it was like, I don't like to look at myself in the mirror. I don't like to see my body. I don't like to see me. I feel like I have been like, I'm an actress, like this is a metaphor. I feel like I'm an actress and there's like one play, in town called This Is Your Life. And I have been cast in a role that I don't want to play. I don't want to be this person. I don't want this person's story. I feel shafted like this character over here, she's a model and she has all these boyfriends and whatever. And this character over here, he's like a star. So my feeling was like, I don't want to be me. I don't want my story. I don't want, the history that I have. I don't want this family. Um, I don't want to be, you know, whatever. I just didn't want it. So dissociating was also a huge part of my story. So bless Gina's heart, she took me to my first OA meeting. Now I need a little bit of a preface to this, which is that I was a tomboy. And then when the boy girl thing happened, I was like, mm. And then as an adult, I didn't feel safe with men. I didn't trust them. I wanted to be a man, meaning like I wanted all of that power and I wanted all of that privilege. And I got along really well with men, but in terms of intimacy, I didn't have any trust with them. So I really did focus on dating women and it was great. Women loved me. They've always loved me. I'm a woman's woman. And so I need to take a breath here for a second. So one of the ways that I describe myself is, especially at that time was like I was Peppermint Patty meets Joan Jett. So I had this sort of big personality. I was a tomboy and everything, but also, I liked rock music and I swore a lot and I'm not afraid to throw a punch. And, so that's kind of the presence that I have. And what other people don't know, because I'm very good at fronting, is how much I don't want to be here. And I don't mean committing suicide. That's not what I mean. Yes, that is one way of doing that. I mean, I don't like this planet. I don't like what's going on. I don't like that like bad shit happens and there are no consequences. I'm not agreeing to any of this. And that's kind of like the feeling. You didn't ask me if I wanted to play this part. You didn't ask me like about this history or this, poverty with some people. You didn't ask me about, disparity between power and no, I don't. It was like, so again, going back to the metaphor of being cast in a play that I didn't get to pick the family. I didn't get to pick the body. I didn't get to pick the culture. I didn't get to pick like the mores of so saying no, that was a big deal. And how I did that was dissociating. And what helped me dissociate was the food. Now, again, I'm telling you this after, doing a lot of discovery. I didn't know this at the time. When I walked into my first OA meeting, and I had been to like so many, I'd been to hundreds of meetings. I'd been like about 5 years. And I sat down and it was mostly women, which I was not used to. The meetings that I went to were very mixed, sometimes mostly men, but whatever. I go into my first OA meeting and it's like 75% women, and all these women are sharing about how they feel about their body. And I had no idea that other women felt about their body the way that I felt about mine. And I started crying. Now, I have to tell you, I am not a crier, certainly not in public. And that's how much that meeting, just the awareness of it and the naming of my experience by just these other women sharing. I had no idea that other people used, I didn't know that eating disorders were a thing. The only eating disorder that I saw was a thing was the Karen Carpenter story, and anorexia was not my issue. So just that, the body image dysmorphia, the not wanting to look at yourself in the mirror, I always joked that it's like food got me out of bed in the morning. And here's what I mean by that. Like, I would wake up, and again, using my metaphor, and it would be like, okay, Nick, it's time to play your character. And I'd be like, I don't want to play this character. I'm exhausted by this character. I don't like any of this. And then I would think about breakfast. And I'd be like, okay, I'll get up for that. You know what I mean? And then it pretty much, without realizing it, food became like how I got through each thing, because it was like, oh, now I get to eat lunch. Now I can have a snack. Now I can go get, a Frappuccino. Now I can get, and it was just this morphine drip. Now, for people new to OA, and again, there's a lot of discovery. I didn't know what my eating behaviors were. And in terms of, binging, I never really thought of it. I was like, that's not really my thing. So here's a way to think of it. It's like if I went to the store and I bought all this food and I came home and I put it on the table and it took the whole table. Now, some people, they binge. They're going to sit there and they're going to eat everything all at once. And it's like so clear that they binged. That's not me. I'm a grazer. I will just keep eating nonstop, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. But at the end of the day, that binger and I'm a grazer, she's a binger, we would have eaten the same amount of food. So that's how I kind of learned what kind of compulsive eater I was. So let me see. So, food got me out of bed in the morning, recognizing that I didn't like to look at my body in the mirror. These are all the things that kind of created clarity, that I realized like I was home. I was home in a way that I had heard other addicts, alcoholics talk about when they go to AA or NA or MA, Marijuana Anonymous, like this feeling like these are their people, which I never had. Because again, anything that I did that started to look like something else, I could stop. And the reason I could stop is because I always had the food. I always had the food. So that started to really open up, like, okay, I am powerless over food. Now, I'm going to kind of amp us up a little bit, which is because of all of my programs, ACA, Al-Anon, I was in DA dealing with money, Love Addicts Anonymous, I eventually, yes, I was with women for like 15 years, and then I was with men for like 10, and then I kind of am back mostly with women. So Love Addicts Anonymous, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, all of the, work addiction, absolutely. So for me, I had to start to think, because by the time I walked after OA, I think there was another program I walked in because I took someone to it, like, oh, I'll help you go to your first meeting. And I was listening and I'm like, oh, fuck, I identify here too. And I started to feel, oh, like I had also, well, I'll say that. I was starting to feel like I was, is that the end? 20 minutes? Oh my God. Okay.
Yes.
So I'll end with this. I was starting to feel like I was exceptionally broken. I was starting to feel like I was more broken than anyone else. So here is what I want to share with you. Thank God I had some perspective because I was going to ISA, Incest Survivors Anonymous. Incest as in any adult you were set up to trust. So it doesn't have to be a family relative. And what I realized is that I am powerless over the effects of growing up in an alcoholic home. And my life is not what I want it to be, despite my best efforts. So all of these behaviors are the effects of growing up in an alcoholic home. So again, the tree with all these different branches, and that really helped me. I am not extra broken. I'm not extra anything. What I am is I'm an adult child who grew up in an alcoholic home, and this is what alcoholism looks like in the kitchen. Food. This is what it looks like at the bank. Money. This is what it looks like. These are all just symptoms of growing up in that home and always needing something external as a solution to whatever uncomfortable feeling I'm having. So with that, thank you very much.